14, then tonight cloudy with a low of 3 above. There's something for everybody at Cafe Latte in St. Paul, from award-winning soup, salad, sandwiches, and desserts to treats from the bakery made fresh daily and a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte is located on the corner of Grand Avenue and Victoria Street. Check them out at cafelatte.com.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
You are listening to a special broadcast of AM 950 Radio News. I'm John Parker. We are preempting my regular broadcast of The Gaily Show to continue our coverage of the shooting death of Alex Preddy on Saturday in Minneapolis by Border Patrol agents, as well as recent developments surrounding Operation Metro Surge here in the Twin Cities. I'm joined in studio by my executive producer, Jim Pounds.
Stay safe, everybody.
On Saturday morning, just after 9 a.m., Border Patrol agents shot and killed 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Preddy. 6 videos from eyewitnesses show that Preddy had a cell phone in his right hand. His left hand was empty. He lawfully had a gun in a holster, which he never brandishes in any of the 6 videos. He had a lawful conceal and carry permit. After pepper spraying him, 6 agents wrestled Preddy to the ground. As he was facing down, an agent removed his gun, but then another shot him up to 10 times. A Border Patrol agent is seen in one video clapping his hands. Another says boo-hoo to eyewitnesses who were shouting at the agents. We continue not to cite any DHS provided information, as we do not consider them editorially a reliable source of information. They have put out several statements and held multiple press conferences, misleading and outright lying to the public, not only about Preddy's murder, but also the murder of Renee Nicole Good, and going as far back as their operations in Chicago. NBC News is reporting today that the agents were wearing body cameras and that DHS is reviewing that footage. However, it is unclear if they will ever release it or how they will release it, if it is actually the truth or if it is they're trying to use it to support their false claims. However, despite Minnesota investigators having a signed warrant from a judge, DHS refused to let them investigate the scene on Saturday. Saturday evening, a judge issued a restraining order enjoining DHS from destroying evidence, an unprecedented legal situation. Today, 3 court cases are in front of judges related to ending Operation Metro Surge, reinstating protections for legal observers and demonstrators, as well as that case to preserve evidence from the crime scene. We are monitoring those cases and will bring you information as the judges rule in them. Joining us now is Minnesota State House Representative Sandra Feist. Representative Feist represents District 39B. Representative Feist, we were saying before the show that we always seem to talk to you when there's a crisis happening or gun deaths in Minnesota, but it is good to see you. Thank you for joining us here on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, and I hope the next time we talk, it's under better circumstances.
Likewise. So Representative Feist, a second shooting in less than 3 weeks, shooting death, and then there was a third one where that resulted in non-life-threatening injuries. We're curious, what are you hearing from your constituents as we continue to live through Operation Metro Surge?
Yeah, well, I am, as always, really honored to represent 39B. It's a district where we have a lot in common with my constituents. I've received so many emails from constituents who are just horrified at what we're seeing on the streets. They're horrified at what we are seeing in terms of how immigrants are being treated by ICE agents in our community. And I'm on a million Signal group chats at this point, just communicating with friends and neighbors, with my book club, to figure out, how can we support people who are impacted? How can we show up? How can we make sure that the Constitution still means something in 39B and in Minnesota and in this country?
You are an elected official, have been for some time in Minnesota. We keep hearing from local Republican elected officials, Republican leaders, the federal government, that if only state leaders would cooperate with DHS, ICE, and Border Patrol, then none of this would be happening, the violence. I don't understand that. How do you respond to that? What does that even mean, that if you all were working together with them, that none of this would be happening? It doesn't seem to make sense. Does it make sense to you?
It does not make sense to me. It really comes down to this misrepresentation around who it is who ICE is here to arrest and detain. They refer to essentially all immigrants, US citizens, naturalized US citizens, green card holders, people on temporary visas. They are all apparently criminals. They are all apparently the worst of the worst. And so, we are not going to just help ICE round up people who are here lawfully, who have not committed crimes that make them removable. In most cases, who have not committed any type of crime, including speeding tickets, parking tickets. When someone is in Minnesota who has committed and been arrested or is being investigated for a serious crime that makes them a danger to public safety and makes them removable from this country, we are already very much collaborating with federal government to make sure that those people are apprehended, that if they are in our correctional facilities, that they are turned over upon completing their sentence so that they can be removed from this country. That has always happened. That already happens. And bills like my bill that I introduced last term, the North Star Act, would not have interfered in any way with that.
There are legal observers and demonstrators and protesters, and I want to be very mindful that we're using each of those terms very clearly, because I think that there are folks who are video filming ICE activity are not protesters. They are legal observers and have legal rights. It's a different status than protesters and demonstrators. Where I'm going with that, however, is their rights are being denied, and the 8th District Court of Appeals said, we're not going to allow, we're not going to protect them. Essentially, ICE can do what they want in terms of tear gas, in terms of chemical irritants, and use that against them. I mean, what is your reaction to that, about how the judicial system is not providing protections to legal observers, demonstrators, and protesters?
Yeah, well, it's pretty appalling. And it's a pretty significant contrast between what we saw in Chicago in the Seventh Circuit. And it's just really, you feel let down by our systems of laws, that the courts aren't going to protect us when we're engaging in constitutionally protected activities. And sometimes it sucks to be in the Eighth Circuit.
Mm-hmm. Legal observers are also noting that in the final year of the Biden administration, upwards of 685,000 undocumented people were deported, and yet we didn't see any of this level of violence at all. And now here, a year into the Trump administration, they haven't even met that level of numbers, and we are seeing people being murdered on the street who are U.S. citizens. We are seeing all sorts of violence. We're seeing 5-year-olds being used as bait to try to get other people out of their homes. It feels like the point is to terrorize. As an elected official, do you have information or other that that they are being directed to terrorize us? I mean, is that assessment correct, that legal observers are having, watching this play out in the streets?
Yes, it is very clear that the goal here is not to enforce civil immigration law. It is to terrorize all people of color. I've talked to so many people who are US citizens, and oftentimes US citizens by birth, who are afraid to leave their homes right now, who are afraid to go to work. I have a client who has a green card who was picked up on a construction site. He was like, I have a green card. He showed them his green card, and they said it's fake. They took him in, and then he got yelled at when he was taken in because he should have showed them his green card. And he's like, I did. So that's what's happening. That is by design. This is very clearly an effort to make sure that everyone who isn't a white person, feels afraid, and anybody who's an ally feels afraid to speak up. And not to just be bombastic and go on, but I am so affirmed by the way that we are responding. I had an emergency meeting of my romance novel book club in St. Anthony, shout out, where we just all got together to talk about what can we do? Who do we need to bake food for? Who do we need to help drive to school? What do we need to do to support our friends and our neighbors? People who we might not have been as connected to because of, language barriers, or, run in the same circles. Like, we are now more connected and more committed to one another than ever. And honestly, it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah. I'm curious if anybody else noticed this. For the longest time, ICE was saying that they had arrested 3,000 people in Minnesota, which I thought to myself, well, so about half of them might have been undocumented people and the other half were just people they decided to roust around. That seemed like a fair estimate. And all of a sudden, Bovino said the other day, we've arrested 10,000 people. And I thought, that's a huge, what? It's the carelessness, which we usually expect public figures like that to be careful or to be, we want to be able to trust something that they say. And I know he's an untrustworthy person. And I know he's lied in court, and I don't trust him as far as I could throw him. But I was astonished at that sort of huge escalation of a number. Do you have any sense that that has happened? Some sort of is that just a, bald-faced lie from somebody, or what do you think of that number?
Well, first of all, I think you could throw him pretty far because he's a very little person.
I know, he's tiny. And that's why
I saw him in person, as mentioned. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a made-up number. And, you saw it with like Kristi Noem when she was saying, these are the worst of the worst. And then, I thought the Star Tribune did like amazing reporting, like more detailed than I've ever seen, where they're like, and then we looked at this many, and they basically were able to show that like a huge majority of those quote unquote worst of the worst had no criminal record, and that names kept being added and subtracted, and that a lot of the people that they said they had picked up in this operation had actually been handed over per our existing collaboration with the federal government when it comes to serious criminals in our system already. So, I absolutely don't trust any data provided by the federal government at this point.
Yeah.
So we've made the editorial decision not to use any information provided by DHS until it is independently verified by other sources. So, I mean, and I've been pretty critical of local television affiliates just like posting a video of a gun, a photo of a gun on Saturday morning that was completely without context, knowing that they have doctored photos, most recently, literally last week, of attorney Nakima Levy Armstrong, and other photos that they have, been using. What is that like? And of course, they're telling, I got to go to a break here. My question when I come back is, how do we deal with an agency that is lying to the American public so brazenly? I have to fit in that break, though. We are speaking with Minnesota State House Representative Sandra Feist, who represents District 39B in the Minnesota House. You're listening to a special broadcast of AM 950 News, preempting our regular broadcast of The Gaily Show. We will have more here on AM 950 KTNF and WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. More after this break.
In today's uncertain times, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces believes that a fire can add comfort and security to your life. At Woodland, our mission is to connect you to a place for fire that works.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces installed our wood stove years ago, and we still love it. Watching the fire, feeling the heat, is a joy we experience every day. And knowing we have a reliable heat source makes us feel snug and safe.
There are many choices in wood, gas, or electric. For diversity in styles, at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, we display over 180 models, and 35 of these are burning displays. You can experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Whether wood, gas, or electric, find a fire that warms your heart, a fire that adds comfort and security to your life. See the many choices at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, located on the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis, and online at woodlandstoves.com.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces since 1977. For over 48 years, our slogan has been, out of the ordinary products and services. Our mission is to get you a fireplace that works in your life.
Get ready to zoom into a world full of color, música, and alegría at Children's Theater Company. Go Dog Go, Ve Pero Ve is a bilingual musical bursting with playful, high-speed energy as dogs drive, swim, and race to the big dog party. This joyful espectáculo blends English y Espanol with expressive physical storytelling. Go Dog Go is sure to have you laughing, moving, and howling with delight. On stage January 20th through February 22nd. Tickets at childrenstheater.org.
Hi, I'm Mary T. I'm a proud supporter of AM 950 because this station shares the values that I care about most: community, connection, and making a difference. Just like AM 950, I believe in using our energies, our resources, and our voices to lift up others. That's why I started the Mary T. Scholar Program at the University of Minnesota College of Education and Human Development, providing graduate students with internships internationally. For over the past 10 years, our students have served communities in Laos, Cambodia, Nepal, India, Cameroon, and Thailand, gaining experience and helping people in ways that really make a difference. Supporting AM 950 fosters conversation, awareness, and action in our communities. It's about shared values and believing that together we can make a difference. Visit marytinc.com to learn more about the work that we do.
Hey, Francois, have you made any New Year's resolutions?
Non.
Well, mine is to learn some French. Can you help me?
Bien sûr.
How do you say this? Can I buy you?
Est-ce que je peux t'acheter
Macaroons from Nicolette's.
des macarons de Nicolette?
Now, say it all at once.
Est-ce que je peux t'acheter des macarons de Nicolette?
Oh, absolutely. I'll have a box of raspberry rose, blueberry cheesecake, and chocolate.
Mais c'est quoi ça?
Thank you, Francois. You can order them online at nicoletsmacaroons.com or visit their store in Plymouth. Merci.
Welcome back to a special broadcast of AM 950 Radio News. I'm John Parker. We are preempting my regular broadcast of The Gaily Show to continue our coverage of the murder of Alex Preddy Saturday morning by Border Patrol agents. I'm joined in studio by my executive producer, Jim Pounds. And with us, our guest for this half hour is Minnesota State House Representative Sandra Feist, who represents District 39B. Joining us at the bottom of the hour will be Minnesota State House Representative Liz Ryer. Representative Feist, before the break, I was asking and pointing out the consistent pattern of lying and deception that DHS is engaging in. Our local Fox News affiliate dug into Bovino and his depositions and legal challenges from his actions in Chicago and how he was being shown video of himself tackling a protester in Chicago. And he's asked, "This is you?" And he says, "No." And the attorney says, "This is you. We're looking at the video." And he's like, "No." And he's asked a third time and he says no. So they have a pattern of looking at video and saying, "No, what's happening in the video isn't us." And this pattern just continues even to today when they're being called out with 6 videos, now a 7th that has come out in the past hour. How do we deal, from your perspective as an elected official in Minnesota, with an agency that has zero qualms about lying to the American public?
Yeah, well, we had the commercial break to think about it. So I have the short-term and the long-term answer. I do think those videos are so important. And, the fact that Minnesotans came out on short notice with their whistles and their cameras and their parkas to take those videos is a huge deal. And it's why we are able to push back on the federal narrative. So I just can't thank enough the Minnesotans who are willing to get cold for this movement. I know, I am such a wuss, and I've been out in my parka with my hand warmers multiple times now in the last week. And if I can do it, anybody can do it, because I am a super big wuss. I lived in New Orleans for 5 years, and I never got reacclimated. So I do think showing up, taking that video is a huge deal, and it's why we have been able to share our narrative, nationwide. Liam, the 5-year-old who was taken, he was taken from my district, and the reason that we have that photo of this poor little kid with his little Spider-Man backpack and his Pokemon hat is because somebody took a picture. They bore witness to what happened as it was happening. And so these photos and these videos, they do matter, and we need to keep taking them. So that is my short-term answer. We need to keep showing up, and we will, because we're Minnesotans. And then my long-term answer is that we have to build more community across ideological lines. I can't remember if I said this the last time I was on your show, but I'm kind of obsessed with the documentary Join or Die on Netflix about the research of Robert Putnam. He wrote Bowling Alone. And he looked at the ways that the health of democracies directly correlate with civic engagement, which is not just people showing up to town halls, but like bowling leagues, picnics. And the more interconnected we are as a community, the less susceptible we will be to, these lies, because people we trust can share the message of what is really happening. And so I think, like, to those of you who struggle with family members who might not be on the same page, it's really important that you keep those lines of dialogue open. And that for us, I have one slightly distant relative on Facebook who we're still connected and we are not on the same page. And I know that he cares about me and my family. And I know that I am maybe the only person in his life who can tell him what's really happening right now in Minnesota. And so I just really encourage people to think about joining things like Rotary Club, Lions Club, volunteering in something that's not ideological, because that in and of itself is something that's going to support like the future of our democracy.
Speaking of dialogue, I'm going to recall the words of Charlie Kirk. And I'm saying this, he was very clear that white men need to use the power of the Second Amendment to arm themselves to protect them from the federal government invading and stripping them of their rights. And yet we have on Saturday a white man who lawfully used his Second Amendment rights to protect himself. We don't know the reason why he had his gun there, but it doesn't matter because he had his gun and he was lawfully able to carry it. He had a lawful conceal and carry. And when we see folks listening to the words of Charlie Kirk who show up, MAGA folks who show up to protest with AK-47s and shotguns and wave them around, how do you have a dialogue with folks who say that's what they say on that side of the aisle, but now suddenly on Saturday it's, if you show up with your gun anywhere there is law enforcement, be prepared to be murdered? How do we have that dialogue with them?
So I know that the Gun Owners Caucus and the NRA have spoken up. So I want to acknowledge that. I am kind of curious. There are certain of my colleagues who I've been like, I should reach out to them. I'm kind of curious because they're really into the Second Amendment. There's definitely this hypocrisy. I will say, like, the two organizations that I was most curious what they would do and how fast they would do it, like, they did step up and they did stand by what they said they stood by. But I've been gratified that a trickle of my Republican colleagues have started speaking up as well. I'm not necessarily specifically on the Second Amendment, but just on, the federal occupation of our state. And so, I hope more of my colleagues will stand by. I know a lot of them have law enforcement backgrounds, and I hope that they're listening to what our Bureau of Criminal Apprehension is saying, what our Department of Public Safety are saying about how they're being shut out of their ability to keep Minnesotans safe. Because, I'm the vice chair of the Public Safety Committee in the House, and they talk a big game about supporting law enforcement. And right now, law enforcement is saying that, the federal government's making us less safe. Right. I had one other really brilliant point to make. What was it? Oh yeah, I as I mentioned offline, I ran into Greg Bovino at the Capitol the other day, and I told him that he shouldn't be at the Capitol during Youth in Government because he was making children afraid. And what he told me is that he supports youth by taking them shooting, and that's the way he supports youth, is helping them have more guns and use more guns. And so so that's just kind of an interesting level of hypocrisy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I only have you for another minute, and this is not enough time to have you answer this question. The legislative session doesn't start until February 17th. Briefly, what would you like to see the legislature tackle when you all convene again in February?
Yeah, so obviously we are a tied House, so what we can pass will be limited by that, but I do hope that there are certain things that we can pass in a bipartisan way, because I would imagine that my Republican colleagues don't like it when people play at law enforcement and aren't identifying themselves appropriately and dressed appropriately. So we're looking at legislation around, liability for federal officers who violate our constitutional rights and endanger our safety. We're looking at protecting sensitive spaces, schools, hospitals, courthouses. We're looking looking at prohibiting collaboration between state and local government and the federal government when it comes to civil immigration enforcement through both carrot and stick. And it looks like I'm being cut off, but we have a lot of plans.
Yes, I'm glad to hear that. We're going to have you back before that or when that gets started. You are listening to a special broadcast of AM 950. More after this break.
Thank you. It was really nice talking with you both. Should I just log off now?
It's Brad Friedman.
Oh, bye.
Representative Feist, I apologize. I did not handle that timing well.
Oh, that's okay.
For sure.
That's
I would
okay. Did I get in like something informative?
Yes, you did.
Okay, cool. I tried to go super fast.
I know. We'll definitely reach out again as we get closer to February, if you're all right with that, to come back.
Yeah, of course. I like long form. Yeah, I'm not a very good soundbite person, but I like conversation. So
you should come for a full. We have Thursday episodes where there's one guest that can talk for an hour. So we'll have to
oh, cool! I would love that. I'm a talker.
Bring a couple of folks into a round table, but thank you.
I don't mean to cut you off. We do have limited time.
No, thank you so much for your reporting. It's really nice to see you. Take care. Stay safe. Bye.
Representative Ryer, hello. It's good to see you again. Not under these circumstances, but it's good to see you. Can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
Representative Ryer, can you hear us?
Now I can.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go. Hello, it is good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So we will I'm going to go back to the feed here, the radio feed. If you see in the private chat, I will put time cues so that you know when we're going to be coming back onto the air. I'm going to start off with a little bit of intro. So I'm going to put you into the background, the backstage area. And then when we get to the conversation, it'll be about a minute. Then I'll bring you back onto the stage here.
That sounds great.
All right. Thank you. We're about 90 seconds out.
All right.
At Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, our job is to help you find a place for fire. Our displays include over 180 models in diverse styles, and we have over 35 burning displays. Come and experience the glow and warmth of a live fire.
Some say there are only two seasons in Minnesota: road construction and winter. Hi, this is Laura, and I agree there are two seasons in Minnesota: summer and fireplace season. I bought my wood stove for Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces in 2005, and every season after summer comes the time when we fire up the wood stove, get out our favorite music, and discover the warmth of fire. Our dog Pumpkin remembers the fire too. He stations himself right there, legs up in the air, just enjoying the warmth of the fire. With the wood stove, we are able to keep the main area of the house toasty warm, while the thermostat is set at an energy-efficient 64 degrees. Discover your fireplace season. Visit Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces today.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces, out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Patrick Lilia. Cloudy this afternoon with a high of 14, then tonight cloudy with a low of 3 above. There's something for everybody at Cafe Latte in St. Paul, from award-winning soup, salad, sandwiches, and desserts to treats from the bakery made fresh daily and a pizza and wine bar. Cafe Latte is located on the corner of Grand Avenue and Victoria Street. Check them out at cafelatte.com.
AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Welcome back to our special broadcast of AM 950 Radio News. I am John Parker. We are preempting for this hour my regular broadcast of the Gaily Show to continue our coverage of the shooting death of Alex Preddy on Saturday by Border Patrol agents, as well as recent developments in Operation Metro Surge here in the Twin Cities. There were 3 court cases before judges today related to Operation Metro Surge. One of them concluded midday that was about ending the surge entirely, or at the very least returning ICE agent levels numbers to what they were prior to the start of the surge earlier in January. Judge Menendez did not issue a ruling today, but said that she will shortly. We're waiting to hear about that. There are other 2 cases related to protections for legal observers and demonstrators. That same judge, Menendez, had ruled that ICE agents and Border Patrol could not use tear gas and other chemical irritants against legal observers and demonstrators because that was violating their First Amendment rights. The U.S. District Court 8th Circuit of Appeals overruled Judge Menendez, and within hours, Border Patrol and ICE agents were again attacking legal observers and demonstrators. The third case is unprecedented in that it is around the preservation of evidence from the crime scene on Saturday morning. Despite having a signed warrant by a judge, Minnesota investigators were denied access to the scene on Saturday by DHS. They immediately then went to court, and a Trump judge ruled in favor of the Minnesota investigators, rather, to enjoin DHS from destroying evidence or tampering with evidence. That case is now going to be heard out in full. We are joined now by Minnesota State House Representative Liz Ryer, who represents District 52A in the House. Representative Ryer, thank you again for joining us. I am curious, how are your constituents responding to you in regards to both Operation Metro Surge, but now the shooting death of Alex Preddy on Saturday by Border Patrol agents?
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see you again. My constituents are so strongly united with the rest of Minnesota on how what terrible times we're living through, and they start with the heartbreak. They start with the killing of Nicole Good. No, Renee Nicole Good.
Mhm.
And, the loss to her community, her family, the outrage over the killing of Alex Preddy, the wrenching of small children from their families and their homes, and the pain that they're expressing to me, um, I share it, and I also really strive to help people have a container for that so that they can move forward, live their lives, but also have the strength to resist. Because that's what people are asking for after that. It's like, what can we do? We have an out of control federal government. My email is filled with outrage and eagerness to help. We have mutual aid groups that are filling up and taking care of the community. We have people watching children to and from the bus, helping people get home from work. I've been out doing all of these things with my community, seeing them in solidarity, and it's been a beautiful thing. But what we want ICE out of here.
Mhm.
Bottom line, we want ICE out.
The Republican Trump administration, MAGA Trump administration, and also MAGA and Republican elected officials and leaders here in Minnesota keep saying, well, if only Governor Walz and Mayor Lee and Minneapolis Mayor Fry would just cooperate and collaborate with DHS, then none of this would be happening. You are an elected official and have represented 52A for some time now. What does that mean?
It means a whole lot of nothing. It is the most simplistic way of saying we want to look like we care. We want to look like we're taking a stand, but we won't call a thing and say, if Trump and his minions hadn't sent ICE here in this full scale invasion, amplifying it over and over, then we wouldn't be in this situation. And so I just wish that people would stop saying, well, both sides have to talk to each other. Because I will say, uh, Governor Walz has tried to talk to them, and the mayors have tried to talk to them. And it is just outrageous to me to have this both sidism playing out. And I'm so glad people aren't falling for it. More and more people are saying, what is this crap? This just isn't for real. And even some Republicans, even some national Republicans, a Republican governor using the word murder when it came to the death of Alex Preddy. So high time, not enough. But I think that they should have been careful what they asked for, because they're not going to win in Minnesota.
Right.
Attorney General Pam Bondi yesterday issued what some are characterizing a ransom note to Governor Walz, asking for things that he couldn't even legally do if he wanted, like voter rolls. Secretary of State Simon was like, why are you asking him for that? He can't even do that. There's been lots of interpretations of what that means. We have interpreted that to mean that Pam Bondi would not have issued that letter on Friday morning, knowing that tens of thousands of Minnesotans were going to be protesting that day. She probably wouldn't have issued that letter on Saturday morning. But our contention is that she realized, and they're realizing this is really, really bad. They have broken the law. They're trying to find a way out of saving face. But how do we remove ourselves from this situation? Others are saying they're doing that as cover to say, well, look, we offered you a way out. You didn't take it. So we're going to double down in Minneapolis and do even more of what we're doing right now. How are you, as an elected official, thinking about what this letter means and what she's trying to accomplish with it?
If things had been going better for ICE and Trump and his goons, I would say that it was the latter, that they were threatening to double down. But it's not. It's going disastrously in terms of the forces on the ground, but also in terms of the violation of constitutional rights in so many different ways. I mean, good grief, they've got the NRA saying you're violating the Second Amendment. Whoever had that on their bingo card? And so I think they're trying to find a way out. I think Trump, I'm not clear on the details, but I think Trump might have said something today that also was one of his, oh, yeah, type of thing, like he was doing about Greenland. And it sounded like maybe he was starting to sound like that about Minnesota.
Right.
To that point about the NRA, and we just asked this question to Representative Feist, I'm paraphrasing Charlie Kirk here, that the point of the Second Amendment was for white men to arm themselves against a potential tyrannical government invading their homes and taking away their liberties. And on Saturday, a white man was using his Second Amendment rights to lawfully have a weapon that was registered and had a lawful conceal and carry permit, and yet he was murdered for it. And now the federal government, Kristi Noem, Greg Bovino, are all saying, if you show up to a protest with a weapon, expect to be murdered. Yet they show up to protest with AK-47s and shotguns. Have you heard anything from your colleagues from across the aisle that are like, no, this is bad. This is literally our nightmare come true. We've become the people that we said we were trying to protect against.
Nah, just the weak gruel of everyone needs to calm down. It's really clear to me that the Second Amendment is fine for me, but not for thee, in their minds. And it's like, yeah, and there's some justice in that. But I would point out that what they're doing is trying to demonize everyone who is opposing them. They work to demonize Renee Good. They work to demonize Alex Preddy. They in any way they can. And the gun in his case is just one more example. Never mind that they didn't know he had it until they had him on the ground, disarmed him, and then shot him.
And shot him 10 times. I mean, the sort of brutality, the sort of mindless brutality of, and not one lunatic, but two lunatics. I mean,
we haven't confirmed that reporting. I know that this morning, MS Now and New York Times were alleging that 2 agents were firing shots, but we haven't seen other folks, so we haven't confirmed that yet. But we just want to acknowledge that New York Times and MS Now were saying that this morning, but we haven't seen other outlets saying that. But it remains, Preddy was facing down, and he was held down by 5 agents, and at least one of them decided to kill him, and another one is clapping his hands while it's happening, and another one is saying boo-hoo to bystanders who are shouting and asking, what did you just do? I guess, and I asked this as well to Representative Feist, and I'm curious about your response to this. 685,000 undocumented people were deported in the final year of the Biden administration, and we didn't see any of this type of violence. And yet it just seems like they're finding every way that they can to be as violent and cruel as possible. Is that the point of this policy? Whether they're saying it out loud or not, is the point of not just Operation Metro Surge, but everywhere they're going, Chicago, LA, now Maine, is it your opinion, or how would you respond to me saying this feels like organized terror by a government against its people?
Well, the way I see it, this is organized terror by a government against its people, 100%, unequivocally. And they've been doing it. It's been Trump's mode forever, to demean, to degrade, to spew hate, to legitimize hate, to fire it up. Bring all his January 6th forgivees into Minnesota and turn them loose, because they are relishing it. Even in cases where no one dies or no one gets physically injured. I've watched a lot of video, including video from Egan, where people are being threatened, intimidated, bullied by them, the observers, constitutional observers. Back up, they back up, you see their feet back up, and the agent keeps advancing at them. It's all such an intentional thing to be able to intimidate, and I am just so proud. I am so proud of people for not knuckling under.
Well, we saw on Saturday, even a press, Jana Shortell of KARE 11 NBC affiliate here was pepper sprayed in the face, despite, saying I had a press badge, was saying that she was part of the press, and, to just sprayed right in the face there.
And she was behind the line.
And behind the line.
Yeah.
And behind the line. So even when you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, they're still being violent about it.
Well, the thing I would add to this is they have proven that it's intimidation and intentional by saying you have immunity to do whatever you want. That the not needing a judicial warrant to go into homes, to have no consequences. And I have seen unverified quotes of how the ICE agents are taking so much glee in this.
I have to fit in a break here. We're going to have more with Minnesota State House Representative Liz Ryer, who represents 52A here in Minnesota. You are listening to a special broadcast of AM 950 Radio News. We are preempting our regular broadcast of The Gaily Show to bring you more coverage of Operation Metro Surge and the murder of Alex Preddy on Saturday morning. More after this quick break.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
Uncover the rich history of Minnesota through Whoosh, a lively and deeply moving ghost tale. Solo artist Andrew Erskine Wheeler masterfully brings to life a range of characters, intertwining the rich history of St. Anthony Falls in the post-Civil War era with the story of its Irish heritage. This award-winning show weaves a hauntingly local and unforgettable ghost story through compelling song and storytelling. The History Theater's Whoosh plays January 29th through February 22nd. Find tickets at historytheater.com.
This is Chad, owner of AM 950. I've been telling you about my friends at Snap Construction, who are arguably the most well-reviewed exterior construction company in the metro. Don't just take my word for it. Take a look at all their reviews online. Winter is the most cost-effective time of the year to complete your construction project. A majority of Minnesotans choose to have their work completed on their home in the summer when they should be enjoying the weather. As a result, the demand for labor in the summer is much higher. The most cost-effective way to improve or restore your home is in the winter due to the lower demand. Right now, Snap Construction is offering an additional 30% off of labor to the AM 950 listeners on your next construction project between now and the end of February. Call 612-333-SNAP and mention AM 950 for an additional 30% off. As always, Snap Construction stands by their work with a lifetime craftsmanship warranty. Don't wait to get a free estimate by calling 612-333-SNAP or find them online at snapconstruction.com. Financing options available.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. Pretty much everybody I talk to is ready to leave 2025 behind. So what better way to do that than quite literally have Zero Res come over and clean that 2025 dirt out of the house? Pretty much any surface in your home can be Zero Resified, from carpets, tile, rugs, upholstery, hardwood, and so much more. Zero Res can take care of it all, so it's time to call the cleaning pros. Start your freshest year yet in 2026 with Zero Res's biggest sale ever in celebration of the new year, and wash 2025 right out of your home with this deal. This month you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119 and a free hallway, plus 15% off regularly priced services like air ducts, upholstery, area rugs, tile, hardwood, and more. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
Welcome back to a special broadcast of AM 950 Radio News. I'm John Parker. We are preempting our regular broadcast of The Gaily Show to bring you our continuing coverage of the shooting death of Alex Preddy this past Saturday by Border Patrol agents and recent developments around Operation Metro Surge. I'm joined in studio by my executive producer, Jim Pounds. Sorry, Jim, blanking on your name. I've been talking literally all day, folks. So we are coming up on the top of the hour, and we are joined by Minnesota State House Rep Liz Ryer, who represents 52A. Representative Ryer, the legislature comes back into session, I believe, on February 17th. And something that's occurred to me as this has been happening, and for folks who are in Chicago and outside of Minnesota, you may not know that Minnesota has a part-time legislature. Like, it basically this year, February through May, opposite year or off years, it's January through May. Representative Ryer, should we move to a year-round legislature, because you all can't really do anything until you come back into session, and only the governor, as I understand it, and I'm not a lawyer, constitutional lawyer in Minnesota, but my understanding is that only the governor can call a special session. What are your thoughts about the legislature moving to a year round? And that would probably take a constitutional amendment if I'm correct on that, but what are your thoughts on that?
You know, the complexity of the work that we do in the legislature and the fast changing environment in our current society and economy, I think really support that. I think we'd have to be careful about how we did it, because right now it's already a challenge for people who are working another job and who need to, in order to make ends meet, to be able to serve in the legislature. And we don't want it to become more and more of a place of privilege. We've been moving forward in terms of racial, religious, all sorts of diversity. Well, I just lost the light in my room. All sorts of diversity. And so I think that we need to look seriously at that. I'm a co-author on the bill to have a constitutional vote for a constitutional amendment. And I like the idea of coming in a couple of other times during the year, you know, having it be maybe a quarterly thing rather than a year round, so that people don't have to completely disrupt their lives.
If you want to, I don't want you sitting in the dark. Oh,
There
there
we
we
go.
go.
I waved my arm.
All right. I'm curious then, we're still a few weeks out, less than a month to when the legislature convenes. What are you hearing about what is going to be in front of the legislature as it relates to Operation Metro Surge? I know that in the House, again, for folks who are outside of Minnesota, the House is currently tied in terms of Democrats and Republicans. The Democrats have a 1-seat majority in the Senate. Do you feel that it's a foregone conclusion that the Republicans will do nothing when you guys reconvene to address what's happening in the Twin Cities? And frankly, it's not just the Twin Cities; it's happening throughout
Yeah.
Minnesota and Wilmer and St. Cloud and rural communities.
Yeah, I was up in Baudette and War Road not too long ago, and they were already hearing concerns. So yeah, it is all over. And it's no less brutal or disruptive or cruel wherever you are. I don't know. I mean, I guess my money is on that Republicans wouldn't be willing to do anything. On the other hand, it's an election year, and people are really upset about this. So many Trump voters and so many Republicans saying, well, I want good immigration, but this isn't what I pictured. And the independents are certainly taking this to heart. So I don't know. I think that's where the both side comments are coming from. Maybe they'll do some things that are minimal, but I'm not banking on it.
This morning, in a surprise video announcement, Chris Medell dropped out of the race for the Republican nomination to be governor and was polling in the top 3. There's like 12 candidates that are running. So he had a competitive campaign, but even went so far as to say, not only am I not going to be running for the GOP nomination, I can't be part of this party anymore. Do you think that will open the door to other Republicans finding cartilage in their spine that holds people up, the rest of us up? Will they start to find a spine?
I'm wondering if he had a perceived liability or if he had any insight that he is defending the person who shot Renee Good, as I understand it. And so maybe that's a perceived liability among voters. I don't know. I don't know who his advisors are or what the perspective is on that. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if more happens. What I've seen in the statements so far are lots of words that never boil down to the things ICE are doing are bad.
Right. I mean, if this was a Jimmy Stewart movie, they'd all start waking up and going, oh, I found my soul, and oh, I found my patriotism, and I care about my state. And you'd say, oh, they're good people, but I don't know how optimistic I am, but I hope so. I hope they are.
We have the elections in November. The entire legislature and the governor will be up for grabs. The Speaker of the House, Lisa DeMuth, is running for the GOP candidacy to be governor. So I'll be curious to see how she plays this out. I guess we're going to have to end it there because I have way more questions for you, but we are literally, I'm getting the sign, we're literally coming up at the end of our time. Minnesota State House Representative Liz Ryer represents 52A. Thank you for taking the time. I know that you are obviously very busy with everything that's going on, so we appreciate you taking some time to speak with us today.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, folks, stay tuned. Coming up next at 3 p.m., there's going to be a special broadcast for the first time. All of the daily hosts of AM 950 programs are going to come together to discuss getting ICE out of Minnesota. So stay tuned for that. It starts at 3 p.m. Central on the Matt McNeil Show. And until this time tomorrow, keep it queer, America.
Keep it as queer as you can, America.
In today's uncertain times, Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces believes